Halloween is just around the corner and I've got a fun pillow project to share with you, and there is a free pattern that goes along with it. Hi, if you're new here, I'm Kathy from the Delfield Quilt Company. I love quilting and sewing projects, and I share what I'm working on via this channel. Today's project is actually a free pattern that you can download from Riley Blake Fabrics. And even though this pattern goes along with their fabric collection, Sophisticated Halloween, I think you can easily modify it either to other panels that you might have, or you can make up a block to go in the center. And I'll put a link to the pattern in the show notes. And if you like Halloween quilt projects like I do, I encourage you to check out a few other videos I have out there for past Halloween projects. All right, let's get started. If you're interested in a kit for this pillow set, I do have a few available on our website at delfieldquiltco.com. I did elect to use the main cream version versus the main gray version that you see on the back of the pillow and the pillow corners. I just like that color better, so that is what comes in the kit. And the kit does come with everything you need to make the pillowcases. It does not include the pillow insert, so you do have to purchase those separately. And it takes a 24-inch pillow insert. But it comes with all the fabric for the top and the back. And you will have some extra pieces like this little border of houses on the bottom and some extra fabric that you can make some coordinating projects if you'd like. And this is the main print of the collection in cream. This is actually what sold me on getting this collection. When Jody, the rep I work with for Riley Blake, showed me a preview of this, I just immediately fell in love with it. Now, the fabric requirements to make 4 pillows can all be found in the free pattern that you can download. Again, that link is going to be in the show notes. Or you can go to the Riley Blake Design website and they have it there as well. Now I am going to cut all the pieces I need at once because I plan on just making the 4 pillows all at the same time, just so I can repeat the step multiple times and make it a little bit more efficient for myself. But you certainly can do 1, 2 at a time, whatever you prefer. And to start, I am just going to hand cut the squares from the panel out. I'm hand cutting it just because I want to make sure I've got it right on the lines and I don't accidentally cut into the wrong piece. I am going to go back and trim this later. All right, I've got all of my patches cut out for this. And I need to trim these squares down so that they're 16.5 inches square, and the image should be centered on that square. So I'm just finding my center point here and then measuring out 8.25 from the center on all the 4 sides, and that should give me the 16.5 inch square. Working with panels can be a little tricky sometimes, especially if it's an image that needs to be pretty much square. The fabric sometimes can get a little shifty, I guess. And so I find that I sometimes need to pull it a little bit just to straighten out a pattern. And then I'll use my rulers just to make sure that I know, where those straight marks should be, and just try to line it the best I can. And you may find it easier to use a fabric-friendly marking pen or pencil to mark your spots first to make sure you've got that 16.5 inch square. And if you happen to have a 16.5 inch square ruler, feel free to use that. I'm not even sure if those exist, but if they do and you have one, oh, that's awesome. And a little tip, I did find that 16.5 inch square seemed to be about 1/4 inch from the outside of the scallop borders. So maybe start with that to kind of see if you're in the ballpark. And once you have all of those panels cut down to 16.5 inch squares, congratulations. I think that was probably the more challenging part for me because I don't have one of those 16.5 inch square rulers. All right, and the rest of the fabric, I feel it's very easy to cut. I liked cutting all of it at once for the 4 pillows because then I got it done with and then I can move on. Also, please make sure that you're aware of the direction of your fabric. At first, I was thinking, gosh, there's a lot of yardage for the birds, for the back. But after I started, I figured out why that was because of the direction. And if you didn't have all that extra fabric for the directional of the back, your birds would have been going sideways. So just pay attention to the birds. I think the other directional fabric would be the stripes and the little bats. All right, now I'm going to sort out the 2.5-inch piece squares into two different groupings of 6 squares each. And I'm just following the pattern. And the first set starts with a D, a B, and then a D square for the first row, and then an E, a D, and A for the second row. And then the next set of 6 has a D, B, D again, and then an A, D, E for the second row. And you should have a total of 16 of the combinations for each of the sets. Okay, now that I've got these all sorted out, I'm going to leave them on this cutting board, and then I'm going to actually sew the right column to the middle columns, and I'm going to just go ahead and do all of them in the sets, and then I'm going to come back and sew the left columns on. And then to sew them, I'm just going to put them right sides together. I'm going to use a scant 1/4 inch. I have that foot and my needle moves slightly to get that scant 1/4 inch. And then I'm just going to start sewing, and I'm not even going to cut the string in between. I'm just going to keep grabbing those pieces in order and keep sewing. Okay, now I've got all of the pieces from the 2 right columns sewn together, and it's a pretty long strip here, but I'm not cutting them again just to keep them in order, and then I know that my pieces will be in the right spot. And I'm not even going to press them at this point. I'm just going to then peel the pieces open, and then I'm going to sew on the 3rd column. Again, right sides together and a scant 1/4 inch. And I'm not going to cut the string this time either. Okay, I've got all of those pieces sewn together for the first set. And you could at this point cut the strings in between. It might be a little easier to press them open. And I'm just going to make sure that I press the seams so that they're the opposite direction. I think there are recommendations in the pattern, and that way they'll nice nestly to each other. And then once I have these all pressed, I'm just going to sew them together, and I'm going to want to make sure though that I am very careful with lining up those seams. And again, I'm going to use a scant 1/4 inch. Okay, now I've got all those pieces from that first set. And hopefully you can see how easy it is to keep them in the right order by just doing them all at the same time, column by column, and keeping them daisy chained together. And now I'm going to sew the next set. Okay, now I'm ready to move on to these orange pieces, and these are those little bats. This part is really important to make sure that you have your bats going in the right direction. So I'm just going to lay them out in the order that they're going to be on the block. That way I know that I've got them all going the right way. And then I need to take the remaining D squares, which is those stars on the cream, and I'm going to, on the wrong side of each of those remaining squares, draw a diagonal line from one corner to the next. I'm going to use my 45-degree on my ruler just to make sure I've got that nice and straight. And then I'm using a fabric-friendly marking tool to draw a diagonal line on the back of each of those squares. And then we need to sew 2 of these squares to each of the orange squares. And you want to be really careful when laying these out. And follow the guide again from the pattern, because you want to make sure your squares are in the right spot for the direction of the bats. And then we're just going to sew right on the drawn lines. Okay, now that I've got a few sewn here, I'm just going to trim off the excess. So from the sewn line to the corner, and then I'm going to press towards the small triangle. And I'm just going to repeat that for all of them. I do want to do one side first and then sew on the second triangle. Again, I'm going to sew on the line. Okay, now that I've got all the small pieces sewn together according to the pattern, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to lay out my pillows. So again, I'm just following the guide from the pattern, and I'm going to put all my pieces out, and then I'm going to sew it together. And to sew this together, pretty simple. I'm just going to sew the top row pieces together first. And then for the middle section, I'm going to take the side smaller pieces and I'm going to sew them so that they match the size of the 16.5-inch center. And then I'm going to sew it to the 16.5-inch center. And then I'm going to sew the bottom row. And then my pillow top will be done. Okay, and that is one of the pillow tops finished. And now I just need to create the backing of the pillow. So this pillow uses the envelope method, which basically is two pieces for the back that overlap each other so that you can just put the pillow insert between the two pieces. I find this to be a really easy way to finish a pillow, and actually I think that's how I finish most of them. So basically we take our pieces from the main fabric. Then we need to fold the sides over twice so that we have a 1/4 inch rolled hem essentially. And I'm just using my ruler to draw a 1/2 inch mark first, and then I'm going to fold the edge to that ruler mark and then press it, and then I'm going to fold it one more time, press it again, and then I am going to sew right on the edge just to keep that folded edge down. So I've got the first piece all sewn with the rolled hem, and then I sewed right on the edge there, and now I'm going to line up the second piece, and I want to again just check the direction of my fabric just to make sure I've got the birds going the same way. And then I'm going to roll the hem of the bottom of that top piece. Again, I'm just going to draw the 1/2 inch mark, fold it halfway to that mark, and then roll it one more time, pressing in between, and then I'm going to sew on the edge. Now I decided not to go ahead with a binding. Instead, I'm going to put my pieces right sides together and then sew them on the edges and then turn them inside out so I have that nice finished edge. But the fabric, if you get the kit, does come with binding material if you would like that binding look. So here I'm just placing my top piece down first, right sides together, making sure I've got those birds in the right order. And then I'm going to sew that top piece on first. And I'm just using a 1/4 inch. And I'm just sewing the top. And then I'm making sure it's nice and lined up. You could go ahead and probably sew the sides on it this time too. But then I'm going to lay the bottom piece then on top of that. Make sure that your bottom edge is lined up with the bottom edge of the pillow top. And it should overlap several inches of the top piece. And then I can just sew a 1/4 inch around all the edges and my pillowcase will be finished. And now this pillowcase is all done. I just need to turn it inside out. I hope that you like this project. Don't forget there's a free pattern from Riley Blake Designs and a link will be in the show notes. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing to my channel and visiting delphilquiltco.com, where I have lots of great free resources and a link to a lot of YouTube video tutorials that I've done. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you the next time.